Good evening and welcome back to Chris and Rock Productions. As always, I am Chris, and tonight is the night. We finally got episode one of Lanterns. So I have been talking about this show for like the last year and a half plus. I've got into theories, fan casts, and all that good stuff. And the last month or so, my excitement has just been boiling over. I think definitely that trailer that they released at Comic Con just, established my excitement, very much so. So throughout this review, I'm going to be giving my thoughts on, the character portrayals, the premise, and all that good stuff, and how I felt overall about episode one of Lanterns. This is going to be spoiler free, so if you haven't seen it, I'm not going to get into any major plot points or any spoilers. At the end, I will, and I'll let you know ahead of time. I don't want to spoil that scene for you, but I have to talk about it. I just have to. So let's go ahead and jump right into this. So going into this season, the showrunners, Damon Lindelof and them, they kept saying like it's gonna feel like True Detective, and that's for me that's a high bar. True Detective season one is without a doubt my favorite season of any show that I have ever seen. And when they said that, I was like, okay, we'll see. Well, that's a high bar. We'll see if they capture it. They did a wonderful job. They captured that vibe so well. And thanks to Hal Jordan, played by Kyle Chandler, and John Stewart, played by Pierre. So let's get into their established characters. Off the bat, we see that Hal Jordan is a grizzled vet. He has been Green Lantern for 40 years at this point, and he's training John Stewart to sort of be his heir to the ring of Green Lantern. But we see that Hal Jordan has little to zero respect for John Stewart. And John Stewart, bless his heart, he is a saint when it comes to Hal. He has so much patience. He has been training with him for, I think, a few months at this point. Whenever we meet them, oh yeah, it takes place in 2016. That made me so happy. At the beginning of this year, 2026, that trend, take me back to 2016. They did. They literally did. I love that. Great year. Very great year. But we see that Hal Jordan is he does things his way. Yes, he's there to train John, but he's not going to give John the average trainee of the Green Lantern ring. And it's established that there's only one Green Lantern from this earth, and that's Hal. So throughout the story, we see how Hal Jordan he does things his way, and we see the episode through sort of the eyes of John. We see how Hal Jordan is very much he does things off the cuff. He doesn't sometimes plan things through, but he trusts his gut. That's what makes him Green Lantern. And we see throughout the episode why he is who he is. That's why he is the Green Lantern. Even though in the moment, like this guy, he's an asshole, which I love. I love that Kyle Chandler, who's such a sweet person, is playing this asshole, version of Hal Jordan. Wonderful. I love that. But we start to see like why has he gotten so far as Green Lantern? Why was he chosen? Which we get into the origin of Hal Jordan, and I loved how Kyle Chandler told it. It's wonderful, which I'll get into in a little bit later. But the premise of this episode is that we get thrusted into this murder or murders that happen in a rural town in Nebraska. It's a small town, population probably two. I'm joking, but it's not a big town at all. It's very close and tight knit. Everyone knows everyone's mothers. And what happens whenever you have this small town, the shooting happens, and you have these space cops show up. One space cop and his trainee actually. What does it mean? How are we gonna deal with these extraterrestrial sort of space cops thrusted into our small town, and they handled it very well. There's a character, her name is Sheriff Carey, played by Kelly MacDonald. She is such a wonderful character. She's uh, very caring for her fellow townfolk. When you have a space cop show up in Hal Jordan, she's like, "What the fuck are you here for? I don't want you here." but there's a reason why he's there, and we figure out why. They start pulling on that thread on why. I want to focus more on Hal Jordan and his origin. Like I said, this is not spoilers or nothing, but he gets into how he became Green Lantern. He talks about it. We don't see the flashback, but I think Kyle talking about it in a bar is so wonderful because he describes it like, man, there was this purple blue looking alien. He crashed, and I get his ring, and it's just like, why was I chosen? Because I'm fearless. I'm Hal Jordan, and I'm fearless. And what I love about Sheriff Carey is that even though Hal Jordan puts on this facade of like how he's fearless, which he does a very fearless act in this episode. And her eyes is like he's not fearless. He's alone. He has no one that cares for him, and he cares for no one. And that's such a subtle plot point. It's not so subtle, but it's not the main story that drives these characters to Nebraska. And I think Kyle Chandler is capturing the grizzled vet very, very well. We get introduced to other characters throughout this episode. Zoe, we get introduced to a character named Billy Mason and William Mason. Billy is a lawyer. Zoe, we don't know what her relationship is throughout this episode, but she does have a relationship with one of our characters. I will say that. Um, and side note, they say fuck a lot in this episode, and I love that. And there's some fucking going on, literal, actual fucking. So that's pretty cool too to see that in a Green Lantern show. But there's one character that stood out to me. His name is William Mason, and the reason why is because he spooked Hal Jordan in a way. Hal Jordan is this space cop who's seen so much stuff. He's been to other worlds and he's been all throughout our galaxy. And you have this guy who owns a ranch who sort of knows more than Hal, or at least he's leading on that he knows more than Hal. He works for someone that we don't know yet. The guy hasn't said. And Hal's like, what do you know that I don't know? I'm a Green Lantern. You're just some. And it's interesting. And of course, that's going to be a main plot point throughout this season. Um, and like I had mentioned like a minute ago, that Hal Jordan does something very heroic, and I love it. And it establishes that even though he comes off as arrogant and ignorant, or how he comes off as like this cut off the cuff, you know, I'm just gonna do it my way type of guy. He trusts his gut. He knows what he's doing, even though it may not look like it. He knows what he's doing. Um, so I think they definitely captured the true detective vibes of being in this small rural town, and instead of state police officers or detectives coming in, you have space cops, space detectives come in. Why are they here? They're suspecting there's some alien stuff going on, but there's being pushback from the town folk, especially Sheriff Sherry. So I love that this show balances the dynamics between extraterrestrial and this rural town and how they're going to mesh throughout the season. I think that's so good. So, spoilers. This is a spoiler that I want to get into. I'm letting you know ahead of time. So leading into this season, there was murmurs like Hal's gonna die, or we don't think Kyle Chandler's gonna make it past episode one. Like what's gonna happen? And this whole time I'm like, I hope not. I want to see Hal Jordan. Yes, I'm not expecting to see Hal Jordan be the Green Lantern all throughout the DC universe. That's why John Stewart's there. But when it cuts back to 2026, present day, spoilers, we see that he's dead. He gets shot and killed in the head, and his body is frozen in Nebraska, and that's what brings John back to this town. Um, and it's interesting because he's dead, but he dies in 2026. So that means for throughout the season, throughout 2016, we're gonna get Hal, and that makes me happy. But it's also sad because we know that he dies, actually does die. Does that mean John has like not been a Green Lantern for these whole 10 years because Hal Jordan's had the ring this whole time? I'm sure we're gonna get into that uh, um, throughout the season. So I loved it. Solid episode one. Very good pacing. Great dialogue. I love dialogue, and I thought it was wonderful in this episode. Shout out to the writers and everyone that's worked on this episode. I thought it was wonderful, and I cannot wait to see where the season goes. So, If you've seen it, let me know what you think. Comment down below. What did you think of Hal? What did you think of John? What do you think about the story and all that good stuff? I want to read y'all's comments. But as always, guys, please like, share, comment, and subscribe. I'm Chris. Catch y'all next time. Peace.